The sun had just begun to dip beneath the golden hills of Galilee. Warm rays kissed the earth, casting long shadows upon a dusty road where a group of travelers, diverse in both dress and tongue, found themselves paused at a crossroads. An old man, wrapped in the dark robes of a Persian trader, wiped sweat from his brow. A woman, wearing the intricate embroidery of a Samaritan weaver, adjusted the bundle on her back. Two young men, one Roman and one Nubian, exchanged uncertain glances. They were all strangers. They had nothing in common, except this road, and the rising tension of a long day's journey. Then, through the stillness, came a voice. "Peace be with you." The voice was calm, rich, and gentle like water flowing over stone. The group turned. A man stood beneath an olive tree. He wore a simple tunic, and his eyes, they were not just kind. They were knowing. As if he saw each soul for what it truly was. "Who are you?" asked the Persian, cautious. "I am someone who believes the road is not meant to divide, but to bring together," the man replied. There was something about him. Not the look of a soldier or a scholar. Not the charm of a merchant or the robes of a rabbi. But his presence disarmed them all. He walked closer and knelt beside a broken jug near the side of the road. As he picked it up and examined the cracked clay, he spoke again. "Some vessels are broken by time and pressure. But it does not mean they are without value. Just like people." The Roman laughed bitterly. "People? You mean us? A Samaritan, a Jew, a Roman, a Persian, an African, what do we have to do with each other?" The man smiled. "You are all loved. Equally." The words landed like thunder. Unseen, but deeply felt. "Loved by whom?" asked the Samaritan woman. "By the one who made you," he said, now placing the jug gently on a rock. "Not because of where you were born, or what tongue you speak. Not because of your wealth, or even your religion. But because your soul is precious." They fell silent. The kind of silence that comes not from awkwardness, but from awe. "But the world doesn't work like that," the Nubian whispered. "We are judged. Mistrusted. We're always other to someone." "Yes," the man replied. "That is why I came, to remind you that love is not a possession of one people, one nation, or one religion. Love is divine. It belongs to all." The sun finally dipped below the horizon, but somehow, the clearing around the man seemed lit from within. He extended his hand to the Samaritan woman and helped her lift her burden. Then he placed a gentle hand on the Roman's shoulder and smiled at the Persian's wary eyes. "Walk with me. Not as strangers. But as one." And somehow, they did. They walked down the same road, no longer separated by suspicion, but bound by a mysterious sense of peace. As if, in following this man, they were stepping into something eternal. Something that didn't care about where you came from, but only about who you could become, if you dared to love. Days passed. The unlikely group, Roman, Samaritan, Nubian, Persian, now followed the man who had appeared beneath the olive tree. They still did not know his name, yet they called him teacher. Not because he demanded it, but because each word he spoke made something inside them shift, and heal. On the fourth day, they arrived at a village by the edge of the Jordan River. The houses were small, the streets narrow, and the stairs, sharp. A local elder approached them. His eyes narrowed when he saw the Samaritan woman and the dark-skinned Nubian. His lips curled in disgust when the Roman stepped forward. "What do you want here?" he spat. "You're not of us. You're not welcome." The teacher stepped ahead, placing himself between the villagers and his companions. "They seek nothing but shelter and peace. We don't house enemies of God," the elder said coldly. "The law is clear. Purity must be kept." "But who defines purity?" the teacher asked softly. "The heart that prays loudest, or the one that loves deepest?" The elder snorted. You come speaking riddles and defending sinners. He turned to leave, then paused. Leave before sunset. Or be stoned. The villagers began to gather, murmuring. Fear crept into the group's hearts. We should go, the Persian whispered. This place, it is poisoned. The teacher looked at them all and nodded. But as they turned to leave, a child's scream cut through the tension. A boy, limp and pale, was being carried by a sobbing mother. He's not breathing, she wailed. Someone help me. The crowd froze. The elder backed away. The teacher stepped forward. Without asking permission. Without caring about their threats or hatred. He knelt beside the child and placed his hands gently on the boy's chest. Life is sacred in every child. Not just those born in your tribe, he whispered. Then he closed his eyes. No chance. No spectacle. Just silence. And then, the boy gasped. His chest rose. He opened his eyes. The mother collapsed in tears. The villagers fell to their knees. The elder stared in disbelief. What power is this? He asked, trembling. The teacher stood and said, it is not power. It is love. Love that sees no lines, no walls, no flags. Love that moves even when it is unwelcome. He turned to the group. Let us go. And they left. Not out of fear, but because their message had been delivered. The village had tasted the truth, that love, divine love, cannot be owned. It cannot be caged by custom or creed. It simply is. The road grew rougher. Dust clung to their sandals. Winds howled through the dry ravines as the group pressed northward toward the region known for bitter divisions, the disputed border between the Dotharites and the Tirans, two tribes locked in endless conflict. The stories they heard from passing merchants chilled their blood. Burned villages. Abducted children. Brothers slaughtering brothers in the name of ancestral revenge. As they neared the valley, the Nubian man, whose name was Malek, hesitated. We shouldn't go farther, he warned. This land is cursed with hatred. They kill before asking names. The teacher simply looked at him. And what do they need most, Malek? The answer sat heavily in the air. Love, Malek whispered. But they won't want it. Love does not wait to be wanted, the teacher said. It goes where it's needed. That night, they made camp near a stream. The stars overhead shimmered as if the heavens themselves listened. Suddenly, hoofbeats. Then voices, angry, loud. Torches flared in the darkness. A band of armed men emerged from the trees. Dotharite warriors. Their leader, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward and barked, "You crossed into our land. Speak before we cut you down." The teacher did not flinch. He stood slowly, eyes calm. The man sneered. Peace. With Tirans among you, he pointed to one of the travelers, Leora, the young woman from Tiran. She stepped behind the teacher instinctively. This woman has taken nothing from you, the teacher said, stepping protectively. She holds no sword. Only pain. The leader raised his arm. She is their blood. That is enough. Then, a child's voice pierced the moment. Father, wait. From the back of the Dotharite group, a small boy stumbled forward. His face was pale, wrapped in cloth, he was sick. The leader turned. Go back, Jaren. You are not strong enough. The boy fell to his knees, coughing violently. The teacher rushed forward, past the guards. Don't touch him, they shouted, aiming their spears. But the boy looked up, his eyes pleading. He's the one I saw. In my dream. Gasps rose. The teacher knelt and held the boy's frail hand. Dreams are sometimes the whispers of heaven, he said. And heaven whispers to all, not just the chosen few. As he placed a hand on the boy's chest, the others tensed, but none dared stop him. The teacher spoke softly, "Little one. You carry pain not just in body, but in soul. Your father's hate has been your inheritance. Let it end with you." The boy closed his eyes. A soft wind blew through the valley. Then, color returned to the boy's cheeks. He stood. Slowly. Then fully. The warriors gasped. The father fell to his knees. How did you do this?" "I did not," said the teacher. "Love did. Love for a child who should not have had to carry a sword in his heart." Tears spilled from the warrior's eyes. "I have hated the Tyrann since I was young," he admitted. "My brother was killed in the last raid. I swore vengeance until my dying breath." "And what would that vengeance give you now?" asked the teacher. "Would it bring your brother back? Or steal your son away?" Next, the silence that followed was deafening. The warrior turned to Leora. He saw not a Tyrann, but a young woman trembling with fear. And for the first time, his eyes softened. He sheathed his blade. Then, in a move that stunned even his own men, he dropped to one knee and bowed his head. "I don't understand you, stranger," he said. "But, my soul does." The teacher placed a hand on the man's shoulder. "You do not need to understand love to let it in." That night, by the same fire, Dothorites and Tyranns sat. In silence at first. Then in stories. Then in tears. Centuries of division began to crack, not from politics or power, but from one man who dared to believe that love could walk where swords had ruled. Jerusalem rose before them like a fortress of stone and pride. Its walls stood tall and solemn under the noonday sun. Within, the great temple gleamed with golden light, majestic, sacred, and guarded. Not just by soldiers, but by rules. By centuries of rituals. By the iron grip of tradition. Jesus and his group had grown. Along the way, others had joined. An old Greek philosopher intrigued by compassion, a young Bedouin woman fleeing tribal oppression, and even a disillusioned Jewish tax collector whose wealth had bought him loneliness, not peace. At the gates, guards sneered. "What is this? A traveling circus of foreigners and sinners?" Jesus smiled gently. "A gathering of the beloved." They were let in reluctantly. Inside the temple courtyard, the air was heavy with incense and judgment. Scholars in fine robes debated over scrolls. Merchants shouted prices for sacrificial animals. Pilgrims knelt in prayer, but many eyes flicked sideways with suspicion, especially toward those who didn't belong. A group of temple priests noticed Jesus and approached. "You again," one of them muttered. "The Galilean who disrupts the law with stories and love songs." Jesus bowed his head. "I only remind them of what the law was always meant to do, lead to love." "You speak as if love is enough," another priest scoffed. "What of bloodline? Of chosen status? Of sacred boundaries?" Jesus looked into their eyes and answered, "Love is enough. And when it isn't, then what you follow isn't God, but power in disguise." That drew a crowd. The lead priest raised his voice. "Are you saying Gentiles and outcasts can be holy? That pagans, thieves, and women of shame can enter the kingdom of God?" Jesus looked around at the crowd. He saw the poor. The forgotten. The desperate. And then he pointed. "There," he said, nodding toward an old Gentile beggar, crippled at the edge of the temple steps. "Do you see him? He's been lying at your gates for years. Unseen. Unhelped. Passed by in the name of ritual purity. Do you believe God ignores him too?" No one answered. Jesus walked to the man, knelt, and said, "You are not invisible." With a whisper, he said, "Stand." The beggar gasped. And slowly, trembling, he rose. The crowd erupted in shouts. Some in awe. Some in anger. The priests looked shaken. Furious. Blasphemy, one of them shouted. You dare perform signs among Gentiles inside the holy court? Jesus stood and faced them. The court is not holy if love is not welcome within it. What good is your temple if it has walls higher than your hearts? One priest screamed, you are tearing down everything we have built. Jesus answered, then build again. But this time, start with mercy. A hush fell. Then, someone wept. A woman. A priest's wife. Unveiled, unashamed, who had lived in silence her whole life, finally hearing a truth her heart had longed for. And others joined. Quietly. Carefully. Not with swords or slogans, but with steps. Steps toward the man who saw no Jew or Greek. No clean or unclean. Only souls. That night, outside the temple, the group sat beneath the stars once more. Jesus broke bread and passed it around. Not just to the Jewish man beside him, but to the Greek thinker, the Samaritan woman, the Bedouin refugee, and even the Roman soldier. One of them whispered, "Is this what heaven looks like?" Jesus smiled, his voice barely above the wind. No. This is what earth looks like when heaven starts to breathe through it. The city changed. What was once whispers of wonder had turned into cries of warning. Jesus' message had done what no sword ever could. It pierced hearts, exposed pride, and shattered long-standing divisions. And that frightened the powerful. They had tolerated his teachings, until he brought Samaritans into the temple. Until he sat with prostitutes and healed Roman children. Until his love became contagious, and dangerous. The leaders met in secret. "He's unraveling everything," said a high priest. "Not with war, but with words. If we don't stop him, we will lose control." So, they plotted. They bribed. They found one of Jesus' own, conflicted, broken, and they struck. In the Garden of Gethsemane, under moonlight and olive trees, soldiers came. He did not run. When they bound his hands, he whispered, "Do what you must, but know this, love cannot be chained." They dragged him through false trials. Mocked him with thorns. Beat him until his blood marked the streets he once walked in peace. And on a hill named Golgotha, between two criminals, they raised him on a cross. Thinking that death would silence love. But they misunderstood. As he hung there, bruised, bleeding, barely breathing, he saw faces. Jewish. Roman. Samaritan. African. Persian. He saw every soul he had touched. Every outcast he had embraced. Every child he had blessed. And his final words weren't curses, but compassion, "Father, forgive them. They do not know what they are doing." The sky darkened. The earth trembled. And love bled. But it did not die. 3 days later. The tomb was empty. Not just of his body, but of fear, of failure, of finality. He rose, not to prove his power, but to prove his promise, that love is stronger than hate. That unity is deeper than bloodlines. That no religion, no ethnicity, no past mistake can separate a soul from the love of the Creator. Years later. The people who had walked with him scattered across nations. The Roman soldier returned to his garrison, but carried a scroll of Jesus' teachings in his armor. The Samaritan woman opened a school for mixed-heritage children once banned from the synagogue. Malek the Nubian traveled through deserts sharing the story of the teacher who never saw skin, only spirit. The Greek philosopher wrote, "Of all truths I studied, none shook me like the truth that love belongs to everyone." And today, his voice still echoes. Not through temples or cathedrals, but in refugee camps, in hospitals, in prisons, in homes divided by belief or culture. He does not ask, "What do you believe?" before he heals. He does not ask, "Where are you from?" before he embraces. He only asks, "Will you love?"